tip.
Good afternoon. It is August 12th, 2024. You're listening to A Little Column A, Little Column B, hosted by Will Leavinos and co-hosted by Zach Bishop. How are we doing today, buddy?
What is going on, Will? We all have had jobs where it just something's happened, and it's been a rough day, or even a rough week. We both worked in the kitchens. That's very unpredictable. You don't know how many people are coming in, but I think this one might just take that to maybe quite another stratosphere, if you will. There are two astronauts that took the Boeing Starliner up to the International Space Station. They had an 8-day mission, and then they were going to come back. Well, the Starliner had some problems. They've been up there for 2 months. NASA's trying to figure out, hey, how are we going to get these guys back? They're not sure how they're going to get them back, and at this point, it's looking like they're going to have to be in space until 2025. Can you imagine going into work and then not being able to leave for over a year?
Well, I'm not in space either or in a spaceship. I mean, this is not an average 9 to 5 year. This isn't just a job. This is an entire lifestyle overtaken by everything. It's a full commitment. Some people are committed to their jobs this much, but this was a dream. They didn't be like, oh man, I gotta wake up and be an astronaut today. It was like, no, they woke up and wanted to be an astronaut for every day of their entire life. So you know what? You get to do a couple more days of being an astronaut because that's what happens when you want to be an astronaut. This isn't relatable.
It's not a couple more days. It's several months.
Well, yeah, what do you want to call AAA? You think they'll be there soon? If you call them now?
I'm just trying to think. Say you're not like a close relative or a close family friend. Like you're on the fringe and you run into it's a Butch Wilmore and Suni Williams. So like you run into Butch's wife at the grocery store and like, hey, yeah, haven't seen Butch around in a while. And you gotta tell him, like, yeah, he's stuck in space. I knew his name. Wait, how is he stuck in space? And just imagine you're gonna have to have that conversation just over and over again. With it just there's got to be depending on how you want to go about it, whether it's gonna be tragic stories that you're telling people, or it could be very comedic of how many times you have to tell people, yeah, he's stuck in space. Yeah, she's stuck in space.
It is funny being in space of how much it feels like the Thanos blip, like in the Marvel movies, because you are somewhere else, but you're not somewhere else. It's not like you're just on the other side of the world in a different time zone. You're literally off of the planet. It's as if you're a blip. Like what you were doing is completely unrelated to what everything else is going on over here. Like
the blip is a good way of putting it too, as well, because it wasn't. I'm going into space and I'm going to be there for a year. So you get all of your orders and affair to be gone for a year. It's boom, you're gone. You weren't expecting it. You didn't set up. You didn't plan for this. You're on the fly trying to figure out, hey, how am I gonna get my taxes taken care of? Mundane stuff.
I don't know. Maybe Tom Cruise can save him.
Ooh,
he's not afraid of heights.
That.
Did you catch the closing ceremony as well as the intro ceremony? I suppose to of L.A. and the torch and all of that. I mean, I remember them doing this. I don't remember them doing it with a Hollywood stunt actor, a Red Hot Chili Peppers concert, a Billie Eilish concert, a Snoop Dogg song, and then a Snoop Dogg and Dr. Dre song. Welcome to L.A. I'd love to recap France. I thought France was phenomenal in all this, but maybe Tom Cruise could save some astronauts. Maybe that's the next stunt he's going to do. I've never seen anything like this. Does this happen in other things? Like, do I just not am familiar with other countries' celebrities, or is this just an American thing? We're like, hey, we're going to have Tom Cruise do a wild stunt just for 10 seconds of this 3-hour segment closing ceremony.
Usually, I'll catch the opening ceremonies. I watch as much of the Olympics as I can, but by the end, it's just the closing ceremonies. It's just okay. I've had enough of the Olympics. There's no more sports, so I'm usually kind of out on it. But I have caught it in the past, and I feel like it's always just like a small little thing. At the very end of, hey, it's all done at this country, but here's where it's going to be in 4 years. But this sort of production, I think, is taking it to the next level of So I didn't watch it, but I did see on X Tom Cruise jumping or rappelling down in the stadium, and I had seen, I think I mentioned it to you last week, that he was going to be heavily involved. There's the motorcycle. He gets on a C-130, big plane to go to America. So it was definitely, it was Hollywood, that's for sure.
I did like what they did with the Hollywood sign. I don't know if you saw that, but they used the 2 lower rings as the O's for Hollywood, and then it's got the 3 on top to give it the full Olympic logo. I thought that was pretty clever. Shout out to whatever intern came up with that idea. All right, let's recap the Olympics. We can do some favorite moments. We can once again do a quick round of applause for all the Peacock situation, Gold Zone, all
Amazing.
that. Everything great, right? Bravo. Everyone did a good job. I can't believe it happened. I think any year from this, they're going to try to think of a way to make more money off of it, and that's where this is all going to go wrong. I think we're very spoiled for all this, but I'm excited for future events where I feel like I can actually follow it and that there's so much. I mean, it's got to be impossible to recap this entire thing, the amount of events and athletes that just went through everything. But what were some of your favorite moments?
So I would say my top moment, and it's odd because it came in a bronze game and it was early on, but it was the in quotes, buzzer beater of a win in the rugby sevens, where Alex Cedric scored as time was expiring to tie the game, and with the try, and then kicking the field goal for the win. Just in an event where there was not a lot of expectation. Australia really wasn't. They were expected to be in the gold medal game. And so there's probably a little bit of a letdown, but that was one of the sports that, I had a lot of fun watching, and it happened to be on during the day. I happened to catch it and was able to see that live. I have to say that was my top moment.
There's so many moments. The Noah Lyles photo finish is kind of unforgettable. That I think it's this close. It's a perfect picture. I think the Turkish shooter, we talked about that last week, Yusuf Dikets. I think he's going to be remember for all this. I think my favorite moments are probably still the swimming, whether it's Leon Marchand, the French guy who closed off the ceremony yesterday, or just Katie Ledecky just tearing everything up. I'm so good at this. I'm so much better at all this. I know we were track athletes, but I was never a swimmer remotely close to anything like this. I have no desire of doing it, but I think because of that, I'm even more impressed by it. And it's so impressive to be that much better than everyone else in a field where everyone's completely committed to all this. They're basically astronauts, where they're saying, I want to be this, and every day of their whole life is working towards getting to this. And they're that much better than everyone else. That's crazy. That's going to always be one of my favorite moments.
You mentioned Noah Lyles. Glad that he won the 100, but I am definitely good to have him just go away for 4 years.
Yeah, it's
it's just
strictly
it's
the
complete,
race.
It's completely just hot take artist. Like it's like it's like he's taking it like right out of like Stephen A. Smith's book of, I'm just going to say things to get my name out there to like get attention. It's just like you're an amazing athlete. You don't need to do this stuff, and it just you put him on ESPN. Yeah, if he's going to do this, so you're just saying things that are just crazy to like get attention, get in the news cycle, and I'm glad he's an Olympic athlete, and it's not okay. We're going to be dealing with this all the time. It's okay. He'll come back in 4 years. Maybe in the meantime, he's going to say something, and it's like, oh, that's right. This guy is just spouting nonsense and looking for attention.
It's a whole new set of people gearing up to be ready. I mean, I know you try to come back in 4 years, and sure you can. There's over 4 years, there's people qualifying, people getting of age, perhaps hitting their peak. Maybe you're missing yours. It's hard. I think it's hard to stay relevant in the Olympics, especially if it's a sport that's not one of the major ones, if it's not like basketball, which we're going to spend a half hour talking about. But I think he's very desperate for that attention, and I think he's getting it, and I don't know if he's going to enjoy it much longer. I think this is really going to turn on him if it hasn't already. There's just too much nonsense. And the thing is he's good. He had the good race, and then the other races and the other stories and the other comments and the ability to just kind of not go away, I can't really credit him for any of that. But, that's what happens when you want attention, man. This is what happens. Maybe if LeBron was a runner, he'd feel the same way. Like maybe I want to be on the cover of SportsCenter, maybe or Sports Illustrated or whatever, everything LeBron's done. And he's just not on that level. It's fine. He's an Olympian.
I don't even mind the trash talking, saying, I'm the fastest man in the world. I'm going to win the 100, 200. I'm going to win the 4x1 relay. But, and then even, the 100, he followed through on that. He won. And it's just like, these are like the top athletes. And we get this like all the time. It's more the ancillary stuff where he's saying that the Celtics aren't world champions because they didn't have to play the European champion, where it's like everybody knows the best basketball players play in the NBA. And then he's saying, oh, well, the Super Bowl champions, they're not world champions. There's not like even another real football league in the world. And just he was mad at Anthony Edwards, or now it's coming out he's saying, oh, that was a rumor, that wasn't true, and he wants his own shoe, he doesn't want spikes, and it's just like, hey man, you're an Olympic athlete, you come around every 4 years, and that's it. It's just in America, at least, it could be different elsewhere, is Olympic athletes are not as famous or not as popular as football, basketball, baseball, a lot of other athletes that are playing every year.
You picked the wrong sport. I mean, you didn't, because you're an Olympian at it. So,
and not just Olympian, a gold medal, a multi medal winner, fastest man in the world. He could say that.
I don't think I'll ever say that, but yeah, I guess you could say that.
That's pretty standard. You win the 100, you say the fastest man in the world. I think it's always funny that it's always the 100, where there's a lot of other lengths that you can run, but I feel like always the fastest man in the world is always the 100.
I mean, let's see him run a 40. No. You want to see it? See it in grass?
No, I'm done with him, man. I'm done with him.
We're done? You don't want to see it? Tyreek Hill's calling him out. He wants it.
In 4 years, all right. He's American. I want Americans to win as many gold medals as possible. But it just seemed like he was trying to bring other Americans down with him and was just looking for attention and was just doing it in just that hot take artist that's just annoying to me way.
It does seem like everybody was willing to show him love, and he kind of just didn't handle it well. Like who's rooting against us in America? Nobody's rooting against anybody. It's just once you start saying stuff like this against other things that they actually like above all of this and that they follow all year round and every year round.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I need you to focus on me. This is my time to shine. It's like, well, that doesn't mean I suddenly don't like everything else. Like,
well, then it came out that I don't know. It was like that he possibly had COVID and that he's got asthma, and it just seemed like he had talked all this crap. And then when it actually came to it, it seemed like a lot of excuses were getting put in the way. And sure, if you had COVID, if you're not feeling well, that is not going to help your performance. But it makes it out like all the other athletes, like there were zero problems. There was no AC in France for a lot of these athletes. I'm sure there were other athletes that also didn't feel well. I mean, the triathletes that had to swim in the river probably weren't at their absolute best. So I'm not gonna go out of my way to feel bad for a guy because he didn't feel well, because like everybody's got something. You've been an athlete before. You're never 100%. There's always something going on.
I mean, you don't think every other athlete wishes they had perfect conditions?
Right.
Or if they were like, if I was feeling the way I felt 3 weeks ago in training, I would have kicked everyone's ass. It's like, yeah, well, isn't everyone saying all that? Like, this is the part of it. It's the big day. It's a small window of time. It's now or never for these 2 weeks, and that's it.
Yep. Ready to go.
All right, obviously our favorite moments were really the basketball games. There's a lot of NBA talent out there. We got to see it go head-to-head in a couple events. I think my favorite game of them all was the U.S. versus Serbia in the semifinals, where we won 95-91. It was Jokic versus the world. There was a ton of talent on the court. Bogdanovic is going off and trash-talking Carmelo Anthony on the sideline. It's a great game.
Is there a history there?
I think it's just I'm hot and I see Melo. I think he looked up to Melo, to be honest with you. I think a lot of guys still do. And it's like, hey, one of the guys I looked up to is over here. And if this was him, this is what he'd be doing, especially if he was hitting the shots that Bogdanovic was hitting. So I kind of liked it. I actually thought Melo handled it well. I thought it was fair game by Bogdanovic. I thought it was smart to not go at any of the other players on the court and to go at the guy on the sideline. It
was so much that he was going directly at Carmelo, like was doing Carmelo's 3-point signature celebration right at him. It was just, I was just trying to think, is like, did I miss something? Is there some sort of history here from when they played together in the NBA that I was missing? Or I, I wasn't sure. It easily could have just been, kind of like what you said, is Carmelo's there. He's an American, well decorated Olympian, so he could have been just trash talking before the game, and that's all fair there. And maybe it was just kind of self contained there, but it seemed like, I don't know, just right from the beginning was very targeted.
Was smart. He was fired up. I mean, if he showed that same energy towards anyone else on the actual team this year, I don't think it would have benefited him. I thought it was good. It was motivation. Pull it out from wherever you got it. Jordan stuff. Just Melo told me I sucked like 12 years ago. He doesn't even remember. It made it up entirely. Just this is when it happens just to get a good game. And this was a good game. And this was Serbia's game, I'd say, for most of the game. This is going to go down as U.S. won gold. We're supposed to win gold. We did what we were supposed to do. And maybe the France game, the score looks like it was a little bit closer, but I'd say we had a little bit more control of that game. Now, this game, it really did feel like we had opportunities to lose this game multiple times, as well as moments where it was like, I don't even know if we're going to get back into this. Like, we're just kind of floating around. We're not out of the game, but we're not winning, and we're just barely down, and it's ticking away, and the clock's going down, and somebody's got to show up. I mean, what are you going to remember this game the most? Is it Jokic just having a great game versus everybody, or Curry coming to alive, and Embiid closing out a little bit? Or we could talk Tatum, just don't open with it.
I think that it was. I should have looked it up. I can't remember. But the Serbia's head coach. So we had played this team twice in the past 2 weeks, and we had handled them pretty well. And I think that they were playing possum, knowing, hey, we don't have to beat the Americans, but we want to save what we need until game time. And I thought that he very much outcoached Steve Kerr, and really that his guys just kind of ran out of gas. I can't remember what their exact 3-point percentage was through three quarters, but then in the fourth, they just went ice cold. Went 0 for 10. Had to force a few of them up. Still had some open shots, but just I think just the legs aren't there. You're going against the best in the world, and you can only hold on for so long. So that's something that's going to stick out. I really think that he, really set up Serbia to be as successful as possible. Definitely Steph, where we've been talking, saying he's out there, and you can see it, and you just know at some point he could just go on a run, and it's just that it happened to be in the semifinal and the final when he finally 17 points in a quarter. And those Steph Curry shots of it's not just threes, it's deep threes, it's the heat check, it's all of it. So I think it's going to be in the Serbia game. I think it's going to be Steph in the first quarter being down 17, and at the end of the first half, when the Serbia team they were getting pretty loose, and it was looking like they were going to punk us. And LeBron, you could just tell like there was a little bit of a shift. And there was like, I'm gonna squash this. It's not getting. We're not falling down farther than 17. And then of course in the fourth, just the onslaught where it was just like the 6-point play, or 6-point possession play, and just the elite guys on the U.S. just getting the ball where it needed to be and just taking over.
I thought it was a great game. I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed feeling like an actual game. Some of these Olympiad games were too good. And I know we play around with some of these teams and we play down to their level, but then at the end we just kind of take it. This didn't feel like that at all. I thought this easily could have been a game we lost, and I think this was a team that was good enough to beat us. Beating them 3 times in a row, very, very hard to do. We didn't play well this game though overall, right? Like this is a game where I left it feeling like if we play like this again, we definitely could be in jeopardy of doing it. I think we lucked out a little bit that Serbia, or France was not as good as Serbia, and that benefited the last gold medal match. And we'll get into it of Curry taking over again. But do you want to talk Tatum not playing at all in the Serbia game?
Yes, I do. So you said last week or 2 weeks ago, you said, what does it matter? We're going to kill all of these teams. It doesn't really matter. And my argument was Tatum, especially, has gone to the finals. Not that long ago that we had the, the COVID year that messed everything up. So he has not had like a lot of summer times. So he took time out of his very busy schedule to do this. And we would like for him to also play in future, Olympics, I would imagine. And so if you're going to bring him out there, don't do stuff like this where you just don't play him. But now we are in a game that was not a for sure thing. This definitely felt, and I have personal experience for this. This is like a double cross over here. But like as a Duke fan, we will go into games against a Bucknell and beat 16-point favorites, and then all of a sudden you're in the second half, and it is just not working. And I had that feeling in this game when I think it was 7 minutes, and again we had like got it to 9, and they had bumped it right back up to 11. Like every time we couldn't really get it any more than that, and started to get this sinking feeling of we're not going to figure this out. Like we were just going to run out of time. But back to the Tatum part, I just don't know how Steve Hoop for Brains Kerr does not play Jason Tatum. We're struggling to rebound. Tatum, awesome rebounder. There's all this talk, and I'm very surprised that Bill Simmons is just kind of like casually throwing this out here, like that Tatum is all of a sudden this like atrocious 3-point shooter. He shot for this past season. He shot 37 like point something % from 3 in the for his career. That's pretty much what he shot. Now, for sure, in the playoffs, in the finals, it probably dipped down a little bit more. He's had to take tougher shots. But if you look at his yearly average, it's above Anthony Edwards. It's above Devin Booker. Everybody thinks Devin Booker is just like an elite, top-of-the-line 3-point shooter, and I think it's because he kind of looks like Klay Thompson. But he's fine. He's fine. He's not awful. But
he shot 60%.
I'm saying this past NBA season, what really made me mad in this game, and this I put on Steve Poop for Brains Kerr as well as Bam, is Bam taking a 3. That is all right. To the Duke thing, all right. It's awesome when we're front running and we're winning, and yeah, some big guy wants to take a 3 against Bucknell, but you know what? We're playing the real team, and you're down. Bam, 3-pointer. This is not your game. This is not. You've taken, I think, 100 threes in your entire career. Look at the team that you have, and that he thought that he had the green light for that. That really, really upset me.
He got benched immediately after that and didn't play at all in the first half, and only played in the second half. And took that 3 and played 4 minutes, I think, for the whole game. So sure, Poop for Brains figured that part out.
Yeah. So
I can't believe you're calling Steve Kerr that. Like he hasn't done a miracle job coaching all these Golden State teams. All of the Jordan teams he was a part of.
This is about the Olympics and leaving a top 5 player in the world on the bench and saying, no, nope, you cannot help us win this game right now.
All right, so you wanted him to have the 4 minutes.
3 years. The past 3 years has been all NBA first team. He was 6th in MVP voting 3 years ago, was 4th 2 years ago, and was 6th last year. So if you want to say he's not top 5, he's top 6. Fine, that's cool. Oh well, now I'm hearing stuff. He's not really made for the Olympic game. He's an NBA guy. That's all he can do. Well, 3 years ago, also at the Olympics, won gold. Greg Popovich was the coach, not Steve Poop for Brains Kerr, and he averaged atrocious. 15 points, 3 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 block, shot 44.7% from 3. 17 for 38. That's not some like, all right, he went 3 for 7, and you can play with the numbers. That's at volume. 17 for 38. And you said not going to play him a minute. You said him being on the court would somehow make this even worse as we're just falling down 17.
All right, well, let's name names. Who do you want to take minutes away from? Because it's not like he said you're playing.
Take it away from Booker.
Booker had 60% from the field. He was their best 3-point shooter other than Curry.
Yes. It's all offense based. You know what? Tatum is 6'10". In the fourth, they kept getting the switch, and Booker was on Joker, and Booker's 6'4". It's not like Tatum can shut him down. But he at least has some size where as soon as Booker's there, it's an immediate emergency. There's got to be rotations. And it's a good thing that Steph was absolutely on fire because he was the reason on the other end that Serbia was hitting so many threes.
And if we played Tatum, it would have been him. It would have been like, "Hey, Steph, you could take a side
No,
to this.
because then
I got it."
You'd be able to switch. You'd be able to switch more. And now, rather than Embiid was also part of the problem, but he didn't really play as much. And I think that as the Olympics went on, he played better. But I am just
all right.
I'm
So
just shocked.
You're saying Devin Booker, who shot 60% of the field, should have played less because he couldn't guard the best player in the world in Nikola Jokic, and Tatum would have been slightly better than that. And definitely wouldn't have shot 60% from the field, and definitely didn't play well with anyone else on the team. But he would have been better.
How can you say he didn't play well with anyone else on the team?
Because he got chances, Zach. You act like he didn't.
With two of the guys on the team a month ago.
He got chances. Where's the last game he had a good game with all these guys throughout all of these examples? I haven't seen it. He played a little bit in the finals. He had no love with anybody, man. He couldn't hit a shot. He wasn't playmaking. He was dribbling into traffic, looking for someone to bail him out, and nobody was moving for him. Look, maybe it's not fair. That's true. But this isn't a fair game. This isn't everybody gets a certain amount of minutes.
No, this is not. This has nothing to do with fairness. This has to do with playing the best guys out there. You're misremembering the finals.
Why do you think that you know more than Steve Kerr? Why? Like, what have you seen out of all of this? This is purely based on your fandom. That's the only defense to all this. Like, what are we talking about here? You really think these guys are that clueless?
I gave you facts. A top 5 player in the league the past 3 years. This wasn't he was a top 5 player in the year 10 years ago. He's way past his prime or he's hurt or anything. He's the guy. And now I'm concerned that he's not going to be interested in playing in the next Olympics. There's all this talk about the KD, Steph, and LeBron. This was their last hurrah. They're going to float off into the sunset, and it's all kind of looking towards 2028 and going, all right, who's going to be the guy? And I could see them calling up Tatum and being like, hey, you're interested? He's like, did you not see what happened last year or last time?
So
I won a championship. I'm at my absolute peak as a player, and you guys said, 37% from three. Nope, you don't play. You sit the bench and don't even bother taking your warm up off.
So you really think that we can't win the next Olympics without Tatum, and that we would have won this Olympics that we actually did win by more? Like, we just didn't win the right way?
We were in real trouble against Serbia.
But that's fair. You're giving them zero credit as if they didn't have Nikola Jokic and they didn't have a hot Bogdanovic. That is just as simple as, well, we should have played the other NBA All-Star versus the 12 others we already have. Like, this team is loaded. It doesn't matter what you throw against them. It was a good matchup. Nikola Jokic would have done the same thing to Tatum because he's Nikola Jokic. He was looking for that switch on Booker. He was looking for the switch on everybody. He was controlling everything in this game. It just seems like you just want to plug in this as like it's a fantasy thing here, and that Jokic doesn't get any credit for any of this. Like, he doesn't. We have to win by 100. We have to win by 20. Like, I just don't think it's that easy. I think that they played really well and that they challenged us and that they challenged a hell of a team that did play. If we played Tatum, would we played maybe a little bit better? Maybe. But do I feel like all the guys that did play played so poorly that there was minutes that should have been axed away? I thought he tried a lot of different lineups. I thought that's what hurt us a little bit more in this game, and just plugging Tatum in would have been the same thing. I thought he finally found a little bit of a rhythm at the end with Durant, and he finally made some shots. He didn't play that great, but nobody played this game other than Curry. I understand all the arguments for Tatum.
He was an absolute train wreck.
I just don't think you could go at all the coaching after we won. Like, it's just now he's no brains.
No,
Kurt.
but you can't
all
say
because
that,
we won. We won. We didn't lose.
So, look at this. You're complaining about Joe Mazzulla. So what if I just came back with you and said, oh well, we won. Well, we won. So there's no end of conversation. It's like, well.
But you're saying we didn't win by enough.
Teams.
We didn't win by enough. That's what you're saying.
We barely won that Serbia game.
Imagine saying that to other countries.
We were in real trouble. We were on the live line. We were like predicted to lose, which should not happen in the Olympics. I mean, at least not yet.
So Noah Lyles, fastest man in the world, won by 1/100th of a second. He should have won by more than that. It's not enough to just win. He should have won by more. What a bad coach by him. He should have won by more.
Because we're the United States. Like, we're supposed to be at a different level. They were talking about this team as the greatest team ever assembled, and we are absolutely on the ropes against Serbia.
And that's how it should be. That's good competition. I don't understand why just because we are the best at all this that we have to win it by 20, and if it didn't win by 20, it wasn't worth any of our time. Like, you really think Tatum was a waste of time for this summer? I don't think it was.
Yeah.
I think we found out a lot.
Yeah, it's that Steve Kerr has poop for brains and wouldn't play one of the best players from America. And I think it's going to be good that he's not going to be coaching in 2028, or I'm pretty sure he's not coaching in 2028.
Well, I got news for you. Whether he coaches or Tatum plays or doesn't play, I got a feeling we're going to be the favorite to win gold, and I got a good feeling that we're still going to win gold. So with or without him, with or without any of this, we don't need it. We have enough guys. We'll get it done because we are still really good at all of this. I just think the rest of the countries are catching up, and the last couple of MVPs, outside of, I guess, of Embiid, really, are all European players. So as long as that trend continues on, those are the type of games we're going to have where we are going to be on the brink of losing to the best player in the world. And I don't think it has anything to do with who we play or don't play. It's just that they have a really good player on the other end. I can't believe you just it's too much bias, man.
I can't believe that you're not more mad.
I don't think there's anybody he should have played over. There's nobody on this team he should have played over. Nobody.
Especially after the Jaylen Brown situation.
Nobody on this team he should have played over. Nobody on this team Jaylen Brown would have played over. And that doesn't mean that they're bad players or that they're going to struggle out in the NBA. It just means it's hard to break the top 10. It's really hard. And then you have to make them play together and play for a short amount of weeks against a whole bunch of guys they don't generally face. I mean, it's a different game. It's a different sport, different officiating, different rules. You're allowed to hit things off the rim. Like, there's all sorts of differences on this. It's going to translate just fine. Tatum's still going to have a career. These aren't resume things. You're making it a resume thing like you're going to remember this in 2 weeks. Like, this isn't anything. He's got a gold medal around his neck. It's another accolade for him.
2.
It's another medal.
2. He has 2 gold medals.
I wasn't taking away the other one. I was just saying he still got one.
That he's able to play. He was the second leading scorer in the last Olympics.
All right, but he's not better than LeBron, Curry, or Durant. He's not going to play over those guys. I'm sorry.
Why are those guys playing in the playing games and he's winning championships then?
I just don't think any coach in the world would have done anything differently. When Curry, LeBron, and Durant are on the lineups right here and on the available roster, I don't know how you take them out. I also think that they play better together than Tatum does.
They're not going to play 40 minutes.
Well, there's only 40 minutes. There's not 48.
That's what I mean. You can find you can find 0 minutes. You could find 0 minutes for a top 5 NBA player. I just don't know how you manage that.
Well, he didn't really take away enough minutes from any guy to be like, well, this guy should have played less. I don't know where you want to find these Tatum minutes. You just say all these things like it has to be this way. It should have been this way because he's got this resume. And I don't see the eye example of him actually playing well at all in any of these Olympics. I mean, he started some games, which I thought benefited him because I thought coming off the bench with Bam and Anthony Davis was maybe clogging up the middle a little bit. But then when he started, he had all the space in the world, and he still didn't find rhythm. It just didn't have a great game. It's fine. He's still going to be a good Celtic. Like, do you really think this is going to carry over and be anything in the NBA? It's a completely different thing.
Oh no, this is the best case because despite the rumors that were going around that said that I was rooting against the team, those are false. That's not true. American first, Celtics fan second, and Tatum fan third. So that's the order. That's how it goes. No, this is great. It's absolutely great. Tatum didn't have to play that much. Gets plenty of rest. He was playing late into June. A lot of these other guys were done, back in April. So they were much fresher. And now I think there's going to be a little extra juice when the Warriors come around. I think we beat them by 40 last year. So we'll see if we can eclipse that number. Still gets a gold medal. That still counts. And like you said, no one's going to remember who scored what points or whatever happens. So. Yeah, a couple months, real basketball will start again, and we're going to be ready to go.
Hey, so what's your argument for Rudy Gobert, the multiple-time Defensive Player of the Year that somehow also got benched on the team in France was playing in France? I don't know if you heard, but their own Defensive Player of the Year really struggled to get minutes out there. He has a similar resume. He's won a whole bunch of stuff. He's won more stuff than Tatum. He was in the playoffs last year. He went a lot farther than a lot of the guys that were playing out there.
What more stuff has he won than Tatum? I don't remember Rudy Gobert winning a world championship.
Well, how many Defensive Player of the Years has Tatum won? Has he even placed in any of them? This guy's got a
we're
whole
doing
handful.
individual awards now?
Well,
Oh,
why
man.
wouldn't we? If we're talking MVPs, I mean, all the other guys on the team that played over Tatum have more MVPs. They have more championships. They have more experience. They have more likability. They have more sellability. They have is that what you want? Is that what's making you mad about all of this? That they're just more likable? That they're being publicized of all this?
If they were so good, their teams would be better in the playoffs.
I just don't see how
they wouldn't be in the play-in games.
I don't think this team in USA was going to be better with changing up anything. I think that was as good as it could have been.
The Lakers and the Suns have 2 guys apiece that were on this team. Can barely make it into the playoffs.
I still think that they're very good players. I mean,
they're excellent. They're all excellent players.
Okay, we could agree on that all 12 of these guys are great. I mean, Halliburton had a hell of a year last year. They went to the conference finals. He doesn't get on the court. He doesn't touch the ball once.
That was expected. He's the young guy.
And Derek White, he doesn't play in the championship game. He did play in the Serbia game. We're rooting against him now?
I don't think he was expected to play. I didn't expect him to play.
You want to take away minutes from Drew? I mean, you're also being very anti-Celtic for all this. It's such a pro-Tatum thing. It's like, what about Drew and Derek White? Can't we be happy for them? They got in the game. They made a difference.
They played well.
Yeah, well,
Derek White.
I don't know how with their terrible coach.
I think the reason that Steve Poop for Brains Kerr didn't play him was so that way he wouldn't lead the team in blocks. So to let LeBron do that so he could get MVP, and that way they wouldn't give it to Derek White. I think that's the reason why.
Yeah, no, that all makes sense. Everyone's always out to get us. It's the only rational way to go in the world here. We can't just work hard on our own stuff.
This is great. This is great for the Celtics because we still won the we won the championship. Drew wins back-to-back finals Olympics for a second time, and now it's just you thought. The whole thing, Tatum was like, what are they going to say now? And just real fast, it's like, oh, this is what they're going to say. All sorts of jokes on the internet about it. And you're thinking, hey, I wonder if these guys will be motivated. Missoula is in the lab right now cooking up something delicious. Jalen is motivated. Tatum's going to be motivated. And this is going to be great for the Celtics. Schedule stuff's coming out. My juices are already flowing. I mean, football hasn't even started yet. And I'm already just like, basketball, let's go.
Of the actual game, I wanted to talk about Wembanyama a little bit. I thought he had a good game. I thought he still looked like a rookie sophomore sort of age of like you're seeing potential. I mean, some of the blocks, some of the threes, all great stuff. He's going to get better. I think some of these shots he contested, it's a miracle Steph was able to get him off. He probably blocks, I don't know, every other human in the world other than Steph. I mean, pretty much every other person is going to get blocked in the corner other than Steph, let alone Steph making it too. That's never going to happen. But most impressive thing by him, and I don't, maybe I haven't watched enough Spurs games or it's just happened a little bit more in all this. I thought the steals by Wembanyama were incredible. He would almost miss a layup, and then the guy would get the rebound and try and kick out with it, and he would just take the ball away. He would just snatch the ball away. I was very impressed with that, especially again with guys on the floor. Like he took the ball from some of the Americans, just took it, just grabbed it. I was like, I didn't know he could do that. He's got these long arms and this reach, and I think everyone's thinking the height thing is all that, but I was really impressed with the steals, and I can't wait to see what he comes up with next because it seems like he's just going to get better. He's going to get stronger. I thought he worked Embiid a couple times, like really worked Embiid at least once or twice on offense coming out of the game. I'm really excited for this guy to be in the NBA. Like, this is going to be fun. I know you're all Tatum hyped up and all this, but this guy's going to be in the league too. Like I'm really excited to see this, and it was nice to see it all on display. We already said enough nice things about France. Definitely had some home cooking officiating, even in this game. But
they should have lost to Japan a long time ago.
That was going to be one of the moments. I just didn't want to bring up enough controversy. I thought we had the Tatum one to go with it. But that was going to be one of my favorite moments of the Olympics. Was that shouldn't have happened. Japan should have won that game. It shouldn't have been a foul. They shouldn't have had a 4-point play. They shouldn't have had the calls they got in overtime. Yeah, it's all a bunch of conspiracy stuff. And then for them to end up in the finals, I actually wanted to talk a little bit about some of the Olympic losers and all this. But what are your thoughts on Wembanyama before we move on?
I don't know. It's all the same stuff. He's the greatest prospect the world has ever seen in any sport, and I hope the Spurs can kind of get an actual team around him and kind of stop the tanking and actually make a push. But yeah, we haven't seen anything like it, and he's going to be doing some fun things going forward.
And then lastly, before we close out the Olympics here, I know Tatum seems like the number one disappointment of all this, but if you are Canada and Germany and you are walking away from this without a medal, how are you feeling? Mr. Canada here with a whole bunch of roster of NBA guys that we're going to match up with the U.S. and that didn't go so well. And this Germany hot streak from the last FIBA thing, that seemed to fizzle out real quick in this bronze medal game here. Who should be more disappointed, Canada or France?
Germany.
I mean, Canada or Germany. Sorry. Germany.
Yeah, Germany should be because they were up big on Serbia and then just fell apart. Like you said, they upset the U.S. To win the FIBA championship, where they have some NBA guys and some fringe, but it's like, oh no, like they've been playing together for a while. Where Canada, I just don't know. It's like they have NBA guys, but then when you really start looking at it, it kind of falls off pretty quickly. So I think they got to be disappointed, but I got to imagine Germany's more disappointed.
Yeah, they would have played Tatum. He would have played for those teams.
He should play for any team.
All right.
Any team that is assembled, if Tatum walks in, they go, yes, we would like you to play, sir. Please play for us because you're the top 5 player in the world. Please.
Do you want?
There's only one guy. There's only one coach in the world that won't play him. Every other coach plays him all the time. Says, wow, this guy's really good. A 6'10" guard? Wow, this is awesome. I love this weapon.
Would you rather have Shireman coach the next Olympics or Steve Kerr?
I think it should be a college coach. I think that the 40 minutes, like you said, the rules being a little bit different, the less timeouts, the way that it's refereed, I think a college coach, it'd have to be the right one. I think it would be better.
Why not Joe? What's wrong with Missoula?
Like I said, I think it should be a college guy, not an NBA guy.
Well, he's basically a college age. It's almost the same thing.
I think it's different.
I've
heard Hurley getting thrown around.
I mean, I'm not against that. I'm not against the
he's
right
had so
coaches.
Much success,
I guess,
but he's just, I don't know. He's a crazy man, and I could just all of a sudden he starts like yelling at the Serbian fans. It's like he's walking out, like he thinks he's in the Big East, and I don't know. It's my UConn bias that showing here that I'm just hesitant where he's clearly had a lot of recent success. So if you're going to go to a college, you just like boom right there. But I think that a college coach might be the better route.
I don't know what the better route is. It's such a talented roster that it's just a matter of a guy that's going to get called poop for brains.
Who do you want to coach next one, 2028?
I don't care if we keep the whole staff. I mean, I like Spoelstra. I think as long as Popovich has some sort of arm in the race of it all, that's fine. Doesn't need to be the main guy in the sideline.
You want Pop to come back?
I'm not against it.
Pop already did it. I think they're trying to go back to the model of like one coach and then
let me ask you this.
You go on to like the next one.
What if it was just Brad Stevens and he's like, I can only give you a summer. I don't want to do anything else. I can't do the whole season, but I could do a summer. I can do LA also. It's not even I can do in the country.
It's funny that you say that because knee-jerk reaction is absolutely not. He's running the Celtics. We need him to do that. But also, we signed everyone back this offseason. So next offseason, like we're so cap constrained, like I don't even think like we can make any moves. So he really might have a lot of downtime. So I bet he'd play Tatum.
Enough.
Or maybe he wouldn't. Maybe as a Celtics, like no one's gonna get hurt. Like, hey, you guys can come, but you're not playing. We're saving you for next season.
It really would have hurt if anybody got hurt in any of this. It would have sucked. I'm glad I didn't really see anything terrible. I don't think I wish.
Oh yeah, it was Drew Holiday sat out one game because of the ankle, and then
I think that was hyper cautious though. That wasn't even like if he had to play, he could have played.
And then it seemed like Durant was fine, and that it was cautious that he didn't play in the exhibition games. So, yeah, and that could happen to anyone. Like I said, I think last week is the guys are playing in these pro-ams, and something goofy could happen. So you get the opportunity to play in the Olympics. It can't be concerned about getting injured.
All right, enough poking fun with all that. I think I could just constantly bring this up, and it's always going to get you riled up. But It is August.
Oh, for sure.
It,
Oh, for sure.
it's August. We're almost there. We mentioned at the end of the last podcast, NFL season's around the corner, preseason starting now, and we have just enough time to wrap up our NFL division predictions that we do every year. So week by week, we'll do one division. This week, it is going to be the South for the AFC and the NFC. We are going to start with the AFC. I don't really have much of a strategy to all this because, to be honest, this is a real warm-up because I don't have the whole football brain turned on yet, as well as these teams are just not really fun to talk about. I'm starting with the AFC because I think there's only one team really exciting to talk about, and I think that's the Houston Texans, who I'm going to predict to win the AFC South. I'm going to assume you're going to agree with that, with C.J. Stroud coming back. They do the Stephon Diggs trade, Nico Collins, Tank Dell hopefully healthy. Quite the momentum ending last year, and quite a lot of momentum going forward with CJ. Seems to be taking over the league, and the more I look at everyone else's quarterback, the more I'm like, wow, they got real lucky they got that guy, because you could do a lot worse. You could certainly do a whole lot worse. Did you have Houston at the top here for the AFC South?
Yes, I did. By the betting odds, they're actually not the favorites. They are the favorites of all the teams, but they're not minus money, so they're not like over and above. Probably because CJ Stroud is not just coming off his rookie season, very successful. They definitely made moves to build around him. But I think he's still young, so you're still not all the way sure. I was surprised for the Super Bowl odds. They are tied for sixth. I think it was last year when we were going through this in the South. It was, we're going back and forth on, who we think is going to go. And then you look, it's like none of these guys are like even sniffing Super Bowl odds here. So is this a perfect way to start, though? Like you said, trying to, get out of the Olympics and, get into football and, starting to, watch the preseason games and starting to, get plugged in on fantasy. So I think this is a great division to start with. A real soft one.
I didn't look at the betting odds, but you mentioned there was another team that was almost the same, if not the exact same, and I assume it has to be the Indianapolis Colts, who will also be returning with Anthony Richardson. I like it. I just am I the only one who feels like there's no way this guy stays healthy this year? Like, this team is solid. Like, they're fine. They're not an above average team, but I think if he comes in and plays above average, they're going to win a lot of games in this division. But I think he's going to get hurt. I'm betting him. I'm betting them being 2, and there's a chance they could be 1 if he plays all the games. But first of all, do you even have them at 2? Who'd you go with?
I had the Jaguars at 2.
Oh, boo. No way.
We could continue talking about the Colts. Anthony Richardson got hurt last year. This is not my fantasy nugget for it, but I think I'm going to be avoiding Anthony Richardson. I had him last year, and it was a lot of fun, but then he did get hurt, and I think that he looked so good in the limited amount of time that he's getting overdrafted. And I also do think, like you said, a lot of his scoring was running, and that leads to, he's a pretty big dude, but it leads to more injuries. So I think that he's going to be too pricey for what I'm looking for. Even though I liked him last year, I was really disappointed when he went down. But second year guy, there's just not a lot of film out there.
Now, my argument for not having them at 2 is I think he's going to get hurt, but I don't want to go in thinking this guy's going to get hurt. So in the scenario that he is healthy, would you rearrange this, or are you factoring that in big time, or is it just purely it's just not that great of a roster? Like, it's fine, but it's nothing. It's not like any of the last 3 rosters here or anything to brag about.
I just think I guess I'm still holding out hope that that Trevor Lawrence can make a jump up from average to above average. He got the big contract. Maybe they'll give him some security, and just we've seen flashes of it, and just knowing there's just more experience there.
So you have the Jacksonville Jaguars at 2. I'm not even going to be shy about it. I have them at 4. I was out on Trevor Lawrence last year. I thought that take kind of really hammered home, especially towards the end of the year. I will say this:
what do you like about the Titans?
I like I don't know. I guess I like Calvin Ridley and DeAndre Hopkins more than I like Gabe Davis. Like they don't have Ridley or Evan Ingram anymore. Travis Etienne is fine, but I feel like between him and Lawrence, I know they have that teammate combo thing, but it's nothing I'm that scared of. And I think Will Levis has at least somewhat of a threat of potentially being better. I don't think Lawrence is going to be any better. I think this is what he is. I think he's fine, but it's nothing special. And I think this team around him is really bad. And as good as he might be, I mean, if you put him on any of the other rosters, I think he's even better. But I think that they have a really bad roster in Jacksonville. I don't think they've done anything to really make his life easier. And it wasn't easy last year. And that's why he got hurt and played injured a whole bunch. I give him credit for playing through a lot of injuries. I'll tell you that. This guy's tough. He isn't soft by any means. The injuries that Lawrence played through last year was the most impressive thing. I just don't see how they prevent all of that, and I don't think they did anything to make his life easier. So I'm so out on Jacksonville. I got Jacksonville at 4. I'll take any upside of Levis potentially being better over all this. The same thing with Richardson potentially being healthy over what I've already seen in Trevor Lawrence, because I don't think he's getting any better.
Weren't you the one that told me the rule about don't get excited about NFL quarterback from a basketball college?
Well, yeah.
Was that not you?
Yeah, but that's one position, and neither of the quarterbacks we're talking about right now are really great. I don't think Trevor Lawrence is great. I don't think Will Levis is great. I don't think Anthony Richardson's great. Like they could be on some nights, but on a week-to-week thing, I think these guys are going really far down on the picks list, and Lawrence might sound like the biggest name, but I don't see the resume of all this. Tatum's got a better resume than him.
I think Travis Etienne this year is going to be just way better than Calvin Ridley.
All right, so you have Jacksonville too. I guess I've kind of already spoiled my 4 here. How does yours finish out then?
Texans, Jaguars, Colts, Titans. Titans have the new coach, and I really still don't get why they got rid of the old coach, and I just don't know if they know what they're doing down there.
The best argument for having Tennessee last is it's really hard for me to believe that a first-year coach is going to be better than Vrabel, and that somehow this team that really wasn't that great last year is somehow going to be better without Vrabel. So I do like that argument. I'm just piling on to last year of not liking what Jacksonville did last year and not liking what they did going into this year of just running it back basically and saying, well, maybe we'll be all right. I don't like their chances. All right, fantasy tidbit for all this, or do you want to talk about the Colts and Titans more? Let's get into fantasy.
Yes. So actually, it has to do with Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. Trevor Lawrence was a top 10 quarterback last year in depth of target, and they added Gabe Davis, who leads the league since he got into the league in depth of target, as well as they added Brian Thomas Jr., who had, I think, 6 touchdowns last year of 30-plus yards. So you said, you don't trust him. I'm still, just hoping he can go from average to above average. But from a fantasy standpoint, I think it might be worth, if you are looking for, you got your solid guys, but you're looking for maybe more of a flyer on just a guy that can really put up like some big numbers. I think Trevor Lawrence, a couple of times a year might be able to just put up like some big numbers and get you the win, because I believe he's getting drafted at QB 19 right now.
I wrote this down for the next division picks, and it's very similar to, I think it carries over to this. This division's generally not that good. Like, all right, depending on what your opinion of the Houston Texans is, which is only slightly better than the Colts betting-wise, you get to play a pretty good matchup every week. So whether you are good or not good, you're at least not playing like the most dominant team every week within this division. So there is hope fantasy-wise for all of these teams. It's just I don't think you can rely on it consistently. If you get it for the right price, like you said, late in the round, I see value there, but like you have to understand that that is a shot in the dark value that isn't going to be a maybe every week sort of play. But on the right matchup against maybe any of these teams within the division, maybe some of these guys could go off. Let me ask you this: Houston Texans, C.J. Stroud. We said enough things about that. What do you think of this wide receiver core fantasy wise? You got Diggs, Nico Collins, Tank Dell. You got a favorite in that bunch? You got a one you don't like? You got anything at all? Give us something.
I like Nico Collins.
I'm always such a sucker for Tank Dell because I thought he just had the most chemistry with Stroud. I know he's coming off the injury.
You can't get sucked into the name. He's got a really cool name. I get tricked by these names all the time. Just you gotta separate yourself sometimes.
Well, I do have the hot take of saying I think I'd rather have Nico and Tank over Stephon Diggs, and I don't think the fantasy price of that is going to translate. and in the draft. Like I think Diggs is going to go way higher than he needs to, and I think he should hold off and maybe wait a little bit more on one of those other guys. Just a tidbit from me. All right, anything else from this division?
Nope, all good.
Yeah, real warm up because we're going into the messy zone right now of the NFC South. My biggest thing when I wrote all this down was like I can't believe all these teams are just running this back again. Like what was the big change that any of the teams made in either of this division? It's what Kirk Cousins.
Falcons traded for Kirk Cousins.
That's it.
And the Falcons Falcons and Panthers got a new coach. Saints they have Derek Carr.
Yeah. I can't believe they're running this back. I mean, what is really going to be the difference between all this? If you're running Derek Carr back, if you're trying to hope Bryce Young gets better, if you're hoping Baker Mayfield is a little bit of what he was at the end of the season, and you're hoping Kirk Cousins is healthy for one, and that he's going to be what he was in Minnesota, which was, again, solid and probably better than any of the names I've mentioned. But it's still like there's not the highest ceiling there, is there? I mean, I do think that they kind of have to win this division, though. I had Atlanta at one.
The thing with the Falcons is they have all of these weapons, and last year they just couldn't figure it out. And so now upgrade at quarterback. Like you said, Kirk Cousins is coming off an injury. They also drafted the young quarterback. So I think the idea is that it's going to be Kirk Cousins, but if there's some sort of injury or something, there's at least a little bit of excitement in the backup there. But Bijan Robinson, he should be even better than he was last year. And I think that they just have a lot of weapons, a lot of fantasy weapons.
Fantasy wise, even though I have Atlanta winning this division, I'm not drafting Drake London. I am not drafting Kyle Pitts. I would love to have Bijan on my team. I had him last year. I think that's a safe target. I don't think I'm going after Kirk Cousins unless we're at that point in the draft and it's like, all right, well, it's either this or you're tossing up something else out here. I don't really see a lot of fantasy trust in any of the guys there. Are you going to fall for the trap of once again, Drake London, Kyle Pitts, high draft picks? It's going to pan out. It seems like a Patriot thing where it's like we took him here. He has to eventually be a number one pick worth, right? It just doesn't happen. What do you think of these guys?
Yes, this is the year. This is the
year. We're doing it again. We're doing it again.
This is the year it's finally going to happen. It's a new coach. New coach is going to figure it out. He's not going to be an idiot and say, oh, well, this is real football. It's not fantasy football. And then all the fantasy people go, if you score more points, like that helps you win the game. It's not like that only helps you win fantasy matchups. Scoring points in real football helps you win real football games. And Kirk Cousins he's solid. He's a solid quarterback. He's not a below average quarterback. So I think with him making the right decisions, getting it to these playmakers, I think that they're going to be able to actually take advantage of having these elite fantasy guys.
Don't draft Kyle Pitts. Don't do it. Just don't. There's tons of tight ends this year. They're all in the same mediocrity. I wouldn't spend a whole lot of money on this and hope to get a whole lot of payout on it. I just can't see it happening. This will be the first time, and despite all of the rumors that all of us know all better, but no one on the field has showed me that Kyle Pitts is really worth the pick. I don't see it. I want to see it. I hear the potential. The potential sounds great. The potential, the way they talk about him, is like this guy's going to be a perfect fantasy player. He could do all sorts of things. I don't think it's going to happen. I think you're better off holding off, go real late, take Darnell Mooney, who's a former Bear, and play him on a bye week. That's what I would do with Atlanta here. Number two, who you got at number two?
Number two, I have the Buccaneers.
Running it back with Baker.
Still have Mike Evans. I really hope that they can kind of, they pulled Baker off the, off the scrap heap a little bit. And I don't know. I like Baker Mayfield. I think that, just like the AFC South, probably even more so because they don't have C.J. Stroud and the Texans there's going to be a lot of everyone beats each other and no one's going to the Super Bowl.
I mean, this is a division of bad teams versus bad teams. It's just going to be a fantasy roller coaster of favorable matchups every week. Baker, I think I said this at the end of last year that if he had stayed in Cleveland, and Cleveland was more or less able to stay somewhat healthier. I mean, they had a disaster. Chubb goes out, all sorts of things. But I think they would have won a lot more games with Baker Mayfield than they have with Deshaun Watson, who has not exactly lived up to the expectation or the contract or the trade value in exchange. and it just makes me kind of like Baker a little bit more. And I'm falling into that trap a little bit more here again, but it's fine. I think Baker's going to be better than Bryce Young. I think both Bryce Young is going to be better than Derek Carr. This is a messy division. This is perfect for Baker. It's going to be up and down. He'll have a chance to really take control of it. He'll lose it a couple times and maybe regain it towards the end here. Any fantasy love for Tampa Bay? We're into Mike Evans. We like that.
I think he's their best fantasy option, but I haven't given up on Mike Evans, but he's not what like he used to be, where like an elite, just like, oh, I got Mike Evans. Like, okay, he's gonna put up points. It's just more of a. I think he's probably gonna be more in the, the flex area.
I think that's where he's gonna get drafted. I don't think it's where it's gonna end up. Who's got the good defense in this division? Atlanta, Carolina, New Orleans. I mean, Baker could light up these teams. Just forcing it to Evans every time. He'll have a ton of picks, and maybe you don't want to have Baker on your fantasy team, but I think Evans is going to get a lot of targets, and sometimes it might work out, and he blows up for 4 touchdowns, and other times they just get blown out because they just keep throwing interceptions. But they're
throwing.
But they're throwing it to Mike Evans, so like I think you're going to be all right with that. I again, right price, I wouldn't take him nearly where he's gone in the previous rounds of past years, but I still think that there's hope, especially when you look at some of the teams that are left here. I also had Tampa at 2. I think at 3 and 4, I struggle a little bit more, and this is one where I just took the unknown of maybe Bryce Young will be better, because I don't think Derek Carr will be better. I can't say anything nice about New Orleans, and other than I think they got worse than last year, and they really weren't that great last year. I think Kamara's just another year older. Derek Carr is Derek Carr, and if you're going to convince me he's something else otherwise, I don't see it, or at least when is that going to happen? His 10th year in the league was finally the year that was like, oh, I should really be scared of Derek Carr. I don't see it happening. So I have Carolina 3 and New Orleans 4. I kind of like what Carolina did with Deontay Johnson. Maybe some more Adam Thielen love. I don't know how that happened last year, but maybe Bryce Young will be better, and maybe Derek Carr won't be, is kind of what I'm going at. Where'd you have Carolina and New Orleans?
I had them flipped. My problem is that you have Bryce Young. I haven't given up on him yet. A top of the line pick. I think there's still a chance, but where the Bears built like all the infrastructure to like make Caleb Williams like as successful as possible, I feel like the Panthers did the opposite and didn't do that. Where their biggest weapon, fantasy weapon is Deontay Johnson, who I'm looking at is like wide receiver 34, and that's the top the top guy that you have. So I just think it's just going to be rough sledding for Bryce. Second year, he's still trying to figure it out, where at least Derek Carr, known quantity, like you said, it's probably not going to happen in his 10th year or whatever it is that he's going to make the jump, but they at least have some weapons. They got Chris Olave, they got Alvin Kamara. These are guys that are difference makers, and that's why I'm going Saints at 3, Panthers at 4.
Do you got a favorite fantasy tidbit in the division?
Yes, I do. It's about the Saints, about Alvin Kamara. Last year, Alvin Kamara averaged 19.6 touches per game and finished as RB3 in points per game, and currently he is being drafted as running back 19. So I think there's going to be some value there.
I could see it.
And you might, I don't know if you heard about this, but last year he got checked out, and they found out that one of his legs weighed way more than the other legs, and that's why they think he was having the injuries. So they're working on that to make sure that his legs are the same size.
I did hear about that. I don't know what this. Who has a comment to this? Should I measure my legs? Is my life being misled? Like, am I leaning the wrong way? Like, it just seems like
you
something.
Probably have some muscle imbalances. That's probably true.
I'm sure most people do. I just assumed athletes didn't have anything nearly as drastic as that. Like, isn't that kind of crazy? Like, that they just found this out?
I just would have thought they would have been looking into that. You have a trainer. And maybe that you don't have like one trainer per player, but there's at least a trainer for the team. And I would think, nowadays, like for like each individual group, and you're doing exercises and you're measuring, and you would measure and go, wow, he's able to like explode like a juke to the left like 20% farther than when he jukes to the right, and just doing like the research on that and going, yeah, there's definitely a huge muscle imbalance here we should probably work on.
That stuff's wild. I'm happy he got it figured out. I had Kamara on one of my teams last year. He's been very good in the past, and he definitely had a better season last year than I think he'll be remembered as. He's not the fancy guy I would target on New Orleans. I actually wouldn't even go for Olave either. I don't think they're going to score a lot of touchdowns, at least through the air on this team. But I think the few they do are going to be long bombs to Raheed Shaheed. That's the wide receiver I would go after for New Orleans over there. It's a boomer bust for sure. But I do think that some of those weekends, he's going to get a lot of bombs, and he might catch 2 touchdowns for like 200 yards off of like 4 catches and just have a chance. I don't know if all the other guys are going to get the workload to really justify all the targets, but I think that's the guy who's probably going to lead them with touchdowns. A little bold to take there, but that's what I would go with, a really, really way more affordable price than what you're going to pay for Olave. And any thoughts on that one there?
I don't know, man. I like Olave.
You like Olave?
I think he's good. I think he's gonna be good this year.
Yeah, have we finally sailed off on the Michael Thomas train? Is that over? Whatever happened? Is he retired?
I don't think he retired.
I don't know what roster he's on then. Is he still on this team?
Oh no, he's a free agent.
Yeah. All right. So he's done. He's not playing for anybody. I don't know what's happened with him over the last couple of years either. He's been really weird about it.
He just got hurt, and just a real disappointing end to his career.
Yeah. You don't really get to pick the way you go out. I think it's even more brutal in football when you do hit the wall and it is over, especially not just being on competitive teams those last couple of years, knowing he was really good, like a lot of years.
Really good.
Really good. All right, anything else for either divisions here before we close out?
All set. Sure is fun talking about football. I started my annual rewatch of the league, so it's fun hearing about players from 15 years ago. Just those jokes and just kind of getting the fantasy football juices flowing again.
I'm excited. I'm ready. I'm ready for football. I almost miss having Sundays free, and then once I sit down for Red Zone for 8 hours, it's like, oh no, this is how productive Sundays are spent. Like I really can't wait to get back.
The Gold Zone, man. Having Hansen, it just was like a little preview of just this is the future, and seeing the teams, and we're even now we're getting a little deeper into preseason, so you're actually seeing Mahomes was playing. They're not playing a ton, but it's just these are the real guys. They're out there. Man. These games don't count now, but it's easier to imagine it.
I think Hansen is so good about going whatever the pace of the event is. Because obviously in football, not everything's all immediate. And at the end of it, it's everything at once. So I think he's good at really extending the slow times and just filling it in and just plugging away here and there. And then when the rush hits, there's nobody better. Like when there was like multiple gold medal events just all occurring at the same time. And we're just going from one to another, not missing a thing, telling you the rules, telling you what the score is. It's just so smooth. It all feels so scripted, and there's just no way it could be. I know he's got the schedule in front of him, but he doesn't know what games are going to be good or what moments are going to be important or what moments he's going to have to talk about. It's all just happening in front of him. It's just really impressive. He's very good at it, and it's going to be a joy to see him back in Red Zone. And I think that's got to be a lock to bring that back in 2028, right? Like we can't ever not have this again, right? This is a lock.
It would be crazy not to have it, and I agreed with your statement from before that I think they're going to try to make even more options to try to make more money. But it was just amazing to you could watch the Gold Zone. If you missed something, it was so easy to go find it and rewatch it later on. For whatever it was, and any event, it was impossible to miss.
Well, good job by them. Good job by us. Make sure you subscribe. Little of column A, little of column B. Follow us on our X account, our YouTube account, or our Facebook page. You can follow Zach on his X account, which is
Wicked Man 24.
We'll be back with more football topics next week. Hopefully not as much Tatum crying, but maybe a little bit. You can probably get a little bit more out of him, right? Are you going to be that mad next week too, or is this going to go away?
Well, if we keep talking about the Olympics and Steve Poop for Brains Kerr, then maybe. But if we start talking about the world champion Celtics defending their title going into next year, it might be a little different.
Hall of Famer Steve Kerr, multiple NBA champion, multiple NBA champion coach, Hall of Famer. We'll be back next week.
Little column A, little column B.